26. I'm Mark Gardner. Higher than expected jobs data last night, despite Kevin Hassett coming out and saying, "Don't be fearful of a massive fall in jobs 2 days prior." He's thrown an absolute dummy there. But it was just a little bit over double what was expected. It was sort of between the 60 to 70,000 expected. Really does take rate cuts off the table, to be honest. And apart from the inflation data sort of drifting a little bit higher as well, we've got CPI on Friday, which will be super important. But if we get a high inflation number Friday, rate cuts, as you can see Jerome doing here, will be definitely off the table. The Trump policies that have been generally announced, which are super pro-growth, and the amount of handouts he's giving out to everyone this tax season as well, is realistically is going to be inflationary in the long term. So I think that probably a fair bet that the rate expectations need to be unwound. Fairly mixed really overnight in terms of what happened. The financials got hit a little bit. We sort of drifted off into the technology services part yet again. Services now down about 5%. AppLovin, Salesforce, etc. They're all sort of getting hit again in this SaaSmageddon or whatever the hell they're calling it. Stupid names for it. But yeah, look, overall, we've had basically the press secretary of the White House get into like almost a fisticuffs with with senators overnight. Like American politics is starting to look like the Real Housewives of Washington, to be honest. So not really much to talk about from that standpoint. I mean, the Aussie was up yesterday, nearly touched 9,000, or it may have even touched 9,000, I believe. That despite CSL peeling off, but I think CBA sort of made up the difference there. But sort of heading towards record highs. China's fairly neutral. We've got the Dow drifted off now that everyone's talking about the Dow again. God knows why. But the real markets, the S&P and the Nasdaq. Nasdaq was up slightly at up 0.29. S&P was flat, up a little bit for the week, and the Russell as well, but it was down 0.5%, but it's still up 2% for the week. So really just mixed. The market's going nowhere here at the moment, and it just seems to be drifting around these record highs, which is sort of never really a good thing. Once we've been through earnings now, and just having a look at some of those retailers as well that people have been switching into. There was an interesting snip that the likes of Amazon is at half the PE that Costco and Walmart is, with double the growth. So I think that switch out of not necessarily have any problem with the switch out of the tech names, but more so the switching into those Walmart and Costco names with a 3% margins on their products and 4 to 5% growth at 40 plus PEs is probably not the smartest idea in the world, and could come unstuck as well in the long term. Gold and silver kept on powering on last night. Gold up 1.25, silver up nearly 5, platinum up 3, and copper up 1, back above $6. Had some decent reports from South 32 this morning, particularly on their copper margins, etc. So the copper above $6 is an absolute boon for most of the industry, as is silver at $85 when they're producing at 20 and under. So lithium bounced back as well overnight, up 3%. Bitcoin, down 1.5. Really, it's probably it's 1.5% a margin of error for Bitcoin, to be honest. So you'd probably call that flat. And US dollar still down 1% for the week. The Aussie rallying quite nicely. Some pretty concerning housing finance numbers yesterday. We've actually broken Ireland's record for the most amount of mortgage growth in a year, which was it's not a good thing. That's not a record you want to break, basically. That was just before it was all. The Celtic Tiger, as they called it, was just before their property market absolutely had the rug pulled from it. And I would say the concerns around those housing finance numbers at some stage is going to have to filter into the big four banks because I mean that's the primary source of their income, and we literally are just fresh world record holders for the most leveraged people in terms of housing, income to mortgage ratios, you name it. We own the records for how expensive our housing market is. So at some juncture, if we get any form of recession, etc., that those come home to roost a little bit. But it wasn't much in terms of the earnings results to talk of overnight. It wasn't, we'll be looking forward to CPI on Friday in the States, and we'll have John Deere before the open tonight. Palo Alto probably be pretty interesting as well. AMP didn't report particularly well. I think profits were down about 11%. I haven't managed to get my head around Pro Medicus yet. ANZ had a quarterly update, and EPS trajectory was a beat against analysts. Dividend per share was in line. NIM was a beat. Costs were a beat. Growth and valuation in line. So not too bad a result for ANZ overall. The normal speak there from corporate speak there from the CEO. We got Northern Star as well. Gold sold, or production proxy was a bit of a miss. Average realised gold price was a beat. Group ASIC was kind of in line, but costs were rising. Underlying EBITDA was a beat, but not by much. And underlying EPS was in line, but we would have expected that. They're maintaining a dividend, 25 cents per share, despite a soft operating performance. But if gold prices stay up here, these guys are they're literally just printing money. And we did have one of the investment banks in the US, I cannot recall which one, upgraded their gold price target to above 6,000 overnight as well. But there's a fair few ranging from 5,500 to 6,500, and a couple of brokers with 7,000 targets. But we'll see about that. I think that's probably a little bit over the top. But look, these dividends, I mean, if you look at CBA, which had a great result yesterday, well, the market thought it was a great result. It rallied about 5 or 6%. Dividend yield on that is now under 3. And so, look, if you want to get some income investment out of these banks, just in case those mortgage fears do come home to roost, and you're not getting much yield if you're a dividend investor, or hybrids, etc. These prices, you're not getting much. Have a look at our fixed coupon deals. Go to mpcmarkets.com.au/fixed-coupons. This deal closes next Wednesday. You get 9.8 or thereabouts, subject to change. It can be higher or lower by about 0.5% by the time the deal goes through. But 9.8 or round about 10 in the banks. Best way you're ever going to get yield out of the banks. Commonwealth Bank, Macquarie, ANZ have all reported quite well. If you want something just a touch juicier, ASX blue chip or quality, depending on your definition of blue chip. It's got Hub 24.0 and JB Hi-Fi in there, significantly off their highs, and you'd be getting 12.23 to anywhere up to 12.75. Actually, I would say in that one at these prices now. And the coupons are paid quarterly, cash to your account. So if you're getting a little bit battered and bruised in this market, following these earnings results, and you just want some steady income and to sleep at night, these are perfect. Go to that site or have a look in the socials, and you can watch the investment video explainers and get the PDFs. It's for S708 investors only. And Mosaic, of course. So we've got these earnings updates for Northern Star, for ANZ, for Pro Medicus. They'll all come out, or they'll all be out, or they'll come out in the next sort of 15 odd minutes to get an instant view on if you're holding those stocks. You get the first month free, 4 recommendation services, all for $149 a month. Scan that code, and You'll get your it's available desktop, Apple Store, and Google Play and Android, and you get all of our content, podcast, education, news in one place, and broker chat as well. So you can chat with the guys here or myself if you need to know, if you're worried about one of your holdings, etc., or you want to have a look at some earnings, get an opinion on earnings or a portfolio review. You can get it all there at Mosaic, so scan the code. But apart from that, guys, it will be earnings dominated today on the ASX, and I think it'll be relatively quiet until that CPI number in the US until Friday. Hope you all have a great day. For those of you who watch AusBiz, US version of the call today, myself and Mark Morland, covering some pretty good stocks in there: MP Materials and Rare Earth Space, Palantir. And a few others, Saudi Aramco. There's a few interesting ones in there. ServiceNow, which has obviously been battered down as well. If you go to ausbiz.com.au around about midday Sydney time and have a look there. But apart from that, guys, we'll speak again.